My name is Mitchell Larkin, member of the undergraduate group number 10 for the Software Engineering and Project course. This presentation shall give a short review of the Configuration Management section of the group's Software Project Management Plan. This presentation shall critique whether the plan has been well organized and successfully defines the correct management items. These items include the tools used by the project group, how versions or builds of the system are identified and managed, what management roles have been assigned, how documentation is managed, and the method for implementing certain changes to the project. The fact that this document has sufficiently satisfied this criteria shall be made known by the end of this presentation. Please note the acronyms that will be used throughout this video. The Configuration Management Plan for this project was contained within the SPMP document. The plan was completed and was found to be structured in an organized fashion, making it suitable for integration with the rest of the document. The introductory sections of the SPMP correctly preface the Configuration Management section and provide explanation of all acronyms and abbreviations used. The Configuration Management Plan is structured into paragraphs that describe each of the management items that are relevant to the project, allowing for a satisfactory level of readability and organization. Within these paragraphs, each configuration management item is described at length and thus reaches an appropriate level of detail. The section on tools correctly identifies all of the software mechanisms used by the project group and describes their functions. Within this section, the SVN repository structure is described, but only mentions the highest level of the structure's hierarchy. No specific information on the lower levels of the repository is provided, which yields a lack of detail pertaining to the repository's contents. The section on version management defines the naming convention used to identify various versions of the software that have been developed. While the naming convention is well explained with easy-to-understand language, there is no mention in this section on how various builds of the system are to be released or maintained. Aside from the paragraphs discussing the various configuration items and activities, there is no mention of configuration management roles that are to be assigned to the individual members of the group. General roles for the project have been specified within an earlier section of the SPMP, but nothing that relates directly to configuration management has been included. There is also no mention of external hardware or software interfaces that are to be used throughout the project. Even though it is assumed that only interfaces used are from the EV3 Mindstorm LEGO kit and the Lejos API, they should still be mentioned. All of the remaining configuration management items have been included within the documentation plan, which is the section that follows the configuration management plan within the SPMP. This section describes how each configuration item or document is developed and released, from the preparation stage through to the review process. These stages are described with sufficient detail, but there is a failure to define how they will be maintained after release and throughout the life cycle of the software. The section of the plan that addresses change management clearly defines the reason why changes may need to be made and how the process of making a change is to be carried out. The various motivations behind making a change to the features of the system are listed. This implies what the different types of changes that can be made are, but there is no explicit definition of the severity or impact of said changes. Following this, the process for requesting and implementing a change is then described. The plan strictly specifies in detail who can make a change request, how the change is specified, how it is analyzed before possible implementation, and how the change is either approved or disapproved. While this plan does not include any definition on how the management of configuration items or activities is monitored, it correctly defines the process with which to resolve issues through the use of changes. From this presentation, it is clear that the Configuration Management Plan has been organized well, defines the management of all software tools to be used, may lack detail on configuration management roles, clearly defines the project documentation process, and states the method with which to handle project changes. While there may also be insufficient detail in describing the repository structure or types of change requests, the remainder of the document sufficiently satisfies the majority of the requested criteria and is thus deemed an appropriate planning document. This concludes the presentation. Thank you for your time.